This is the Franchise QB Podcast, where we empower entrepreneurs to win big in franchising. We huddle up weekly to educate our audience about the most successful small business model ever created, franchising.
Welcome to the Franchise QB Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Halpern, a 20-year industry veteran and entrepreneur. My mission is for listeners to achieve their American dreams of creating wealth and independence through franchise ownership. Every week, we speak with franchisees, franchisors, or vendors that support the industry. Thank you for joining us, and let's get started. Joining us in the huddle today is Brian Garrison, President and Chief Operating Officer at Buzz Franchise Brands. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much, Mike. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So you have a really impressive resume. You attended the U.S. Naval Academy and earned a BS in aerospace engineering, and then earned a master's degree in the same field. You then earned an additional master's degree in national security and public policy at the U.S. Naval War College and an MBA in finance from Wharton at Penn. Then as a naval officer, you served our country, thank you for your service, in a variety of leadership roles, predominantly in naval aviation, to include command of an aircraft carrier-based FA-18 squadron comprised of 250 personnel, 12 aircraft, and an operating budget in excess of $15 million. Extremely impressive background in the military. You then went to work in the private sector with the global management consulting firm McKinsey, and somehow discovered our industry of franchising. So, Brian, if you could tell us a little bit about your background and how you went from aerospace to the franchise space.
Yeah, probably safe to say that wasn't a planned transition, Mike, but appreciate the intro and kind of the quick review of my bio. But yeah, I mean, for sure, look, I was blessed to serve in the Navy for 20 plus years, just an amazing opportunity. And then, maybe doubly blessed in the sense of my transition to the private sector and the consulting space certainly introduced me to, a number of different industries and helped me kind of translate my skill set from the military more into the private sector. The franchising piece, a little bit of fortuitousness there. I kind of fell into it where I was looking for something more entrepreneurial, didn't really know anything about franchising. But knew socially and somewhat through our kids, our CEO, Kevin Wilson, here in Virginia Beach. So kind of my adopted hometown, his adopted hometown. And we got to talking about what he was doing in the mid 2010s, I guess somewhere around the spring of 2015. Okay. And he introduced me to what he was doing with Mosquito Joe. And so that was our first brand. That really took off. He had been kind of growing that since early 2013. And I was looking to do something that gave me more control over my life and my schedule. And it really gave me kind of a somewhat risk-free opportunity to jump into something entrepreneurial, right? Like franchising, as you well know, it's an entrepreneurial role, but there's some backstop there. Yep. And that's, for my risk profile, I think that was a great segue. So May of 2015, I decided if it was now or never, if I was going to get out of kind of the corporate side of the world, now was the time. And so I made the leap, and 10 years later, I haven't looked back. It's just been an amazing journey.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us. And it's kind of interesting to me how many people that are leaders in franchising say the same thing, that they fell into it. They ran into somebody, and that's the connection. That's how I got into franchising, back in 2001. I was with a company and there were massive layoffs, and my boss is like, hey, my neighbor's in the franchising space. Do you want to go check that out? And 25 years later, here I am. So also with Mosquito Joe, your company had an exit with that brand, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, gotcha. A couple of years back.
Yeah, it's been almost 7 years. We exited in August of 2018. So yeah, over 7 years actually.
Okay. And it was Neighborly the company that took that one over?
That's correct.
Okay, very cool. So you are kind of the leader, the president, the COO at Buzz Franchise Brands. And we're going to speak specifically about one of your concepts today, which is Wonderly Lights. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about Buzz. So can you tell, for anyone listening that's not familiar with Buzz, what is Buzz Franchise Brands?
Sure, absolutely. So Buzz Franchise Brands is the parent company or holding company, if you will, for kind of our small portfolio of franchise concepts. So we predominantly operate in the service space, predominantly in two verticals, if you will, home services and youth enrichment. And when really that first summer I joined Mosquito Joe, we made the transition to become a holding company with multiple brands and launched our second brand at that time, which was Pool Scouts. So the way to think about Buzz is the parent company, all the brands kind of fold up under that. And then, Buzz, based here in Virginia Beach, we have about 75 corporate employees, if you will. We run a couple of local operations for some of our home services businesses, and we provide a variety of shared services in addition to having kind of distinct brand teams or management teams for each brand.
That's great. I appreciate the context. And just to give a sense of kind of the scale of where Buzz is amongst all its brands, can you give us a brief overview of, what the brands are, how many locations or territories are out there?
For sure. So 4 brands, Wonderly Lights, we'll talk about Pool Scouts, Home Clean Heroes on the home services side, British Swim School, Learn to Swim program on the youth enrichment side. All in, we have about 275 franchisees, about 500 locations across the U.S. and Canada, of which just over 450 are open, so roughly a 90% open to sale ratio, if you will. And then we're operating right now in 38 states and plus, I think 3 or maybe it's 4 provinces in Canada now.
You guys have come a long way in the decade that you've been there. I mean, that's a massive footprint with really a handful of brands. So congratulations on all the success here in the past decade.
Yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate it. It's been very, very much a fun ride.
Yeah, so you mentioned kind of it sounds like you guys are forward investing in the support for all those owners there at HQ in Virginia Beach. Can you touch a little bit on your leadership team that kind of supports you in terms of, who is the investor mix that's kind of investing in the company and the culture there that you've built at Buzz Franchise Brands?
For sure. So as I mentioned, privately held company, all individual investors, some of which are high performance, high tenured employees, many of which are either in the community or through, various personal networks that Kevin or myself have. We have a small board, including a couple or actually 3 independent directors. And then the leadership team, I think the longevity is an amazing piece of the story here. When Kevin founded the company in 2012, summer of 2012, before we started franchising in 2013, our CFO and our CMO literally started that summer. So Kevin, Angela Paul's our CMO, and Mike Hull, our CFO, all been with the company since the end of 2012, so coming up on 14 years. I've been around since 2015, as I mentioned. And then, our other president for Home Clean Heroes, Joe DeLotte, been around since 2017. Ashley Gunlock, president of British Swim School, has been around since 2019. So when we think of the leadership team, they set the tone as far as the values and the vision and the mission we've talked about. And really the cultural piece of what we do here. We're very much a franchisee-centric and an employee-centric organization. And I think, whether you talk to any of our franchise owners or any of our staff, that really comes across and people really appreciate the atmosphere and the culture we've created here.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. Sounds like you guys, that longevity, I think, speaks volumes. And I think when candidates are evaluating your brand portfolio, that matters. And it sounds like a really good place to be. So we're going to talk today about your newest franchise, which is Wonderly Lights. Can you explain to the audience what is Wonderly Lights and why did you guys decide to add that to the mix of your kind of franchise brands?
Absolutely. So Wonderly Lights is a premium outdoor lighting company. So we design and implement or install, if you will, outdoor lighting solutions, whether it's landscape or architectural lighting to help kind of upscale your home and your outdoor living spaces, permanent LED lighting, which is an extremely in-demand kind of hot market right now, or hot vertical in that space, which gives you the ability to, mount permanently on your home LED lighting that you can control through an app. So you can make it very thematic, whether it's the 4th of July or, October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month and throwing the pink out there. And of course, during the holidays. And then we do the traditional holiday light installation, very premium, very upscale, includes the greenery, the lights, wreaths, if you will, lighted wreaths. So it's a very upscale premium brand and offering to our clientele. It's a market we candidly had been looking at since the late 2016, early 2017 timeframe. We actually thought about launching that then to complement the Mosquito Joe brand. Okay. Mosquito Joe is very seasonal in a half to 2/3 of the country. And we were looking at ways to help our owners find additional revenue streams in the slower time of year. And so that kind of insight, if you will, had never left us. And so when we came out of COVID, British Swim School took a big hit during COVID. As you can imagine, you're teaching kids to swim in pools. So we hunkered down 2020, 2021 into early 2022. But once everything kind of opened up again and the brand started growing, rapidly, we knew it was time to find our fourth brand. It's always part of our mission is to look for new opportunities. And we had the opportunity to partner with some existing outdoor lighting businesses, a couple of whom we knew personally. And so we decided to make that move. So in the span of about 4 months, we kind of designed the brand, and we focused on that niche holiday lighting sector or segment initially in the 2022, 2023 timeframe, kind of built some scale, if you will. And then now we've expanded into the full service offering.
Yeah, that's great. And it's I know in the green room we were talking about a football game I just attended. And I'll plug my kids a little bit. I have one at the University of Kentucky. And at the football game against Texas, which unfortunately they didn't win, but every time a touchdown was scored, field goal was made, the lights went bananas. They have the blue and white flashing lights. And I'm thinking to myself, the commercial applications of what you guys do expands beyond just the residential footprint. I do want to talk about that here in a little bit, but even at our local, like my senior in high school, who is a lineman on the team, when they score, they have the same thing. It's just purple because that's their color. So there's all these ways that they're adding this decorative lighting for commercial applications, schools, and other things. I'm sure, that's a really great opportunity for your Wonderly franchise owners to kind of extend the reach beyond the kind of footprint of the residential space. So kind of speaking of footprint, like tell us a little bit about where you are now, like how many franchise owners, territories, and geographically, where are we spaced nationwide with Wonderly?
Absolutely. So 24 owners currently, 45 open locations. We're in 15 states, predominantly the eastern third of the U.S. So you could kind of draw the quadrant from Massachusetts down to Florida, out to Texas, up to Detroit, and then a handful of states kind of in the middle of that. So it's a great footprint for us that we don't have to travel cross country to support our franchisees. We're covering both seasonal markets, meaning, very cold weather markets, I guess is a better way of saying that, as well as year-round markets. We have a franchisee in upstate New York, just to kind of play off what we were just talking about with the University of Kentucky. One of their big themes is they do Buffalo Bills Mafia lighting schemes. Oh, wow. And people love and it's very convenient. It's essentially a red, white, and blue, but they offer to light people's homes up, and they light them up during the Sunday games. And so it's a very kind of popular offering that they have. And then you're right, you touched on it, but, residential is the predominant. But there can be some big ticket items if you get good commercial or municipal opportunities. Mm-hmm. So even here locally, our local affiliate here just did a installation for the city of Norfolk. So that's a great, municipal opportunity that'll get a lot of eyeballs here locally when they do their grand illumination closer to Thanksgiving. So there is a lot of opportunity in the holidays and certainly beyond with commercial landscaping and whatnot.
Yeah, and I bet to your point about the NFL, I mean, if you see your neighbor with those lights, you're going to figure out, hey, where did you get that done? I want to get those guys out to my house. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the model. If someone decides that this is something that's interesting, they want to potentially become a franchise owner with Wonderly, what can a new owner expect regarding training? And you kind of have a phased approach to owner support. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So we have a pretty comprehensive onboarding process. We have a dedicated director of training on onboarding who actually supports all three of our home service brands and works directly with the brand management teams. And that onboarding is, we try to keep it as simple as possible. What I tell candidates is we're training and onboarding new owners, I'll say we're basically 24/7, 365. We just about always have multiple owners at different stages in the pipeline. So we're intimately familiar with what needs to be done, and we're going to drive an owner through that process, which can be very task-oriented, very checklist-oriented, to ensure they're up and running, as quickly as they can be. Like our goal is less than 100 days. It's an asset light business. We maintain, we can get into kind of supply chain and product here in a second, but if they can move that fast and they want to get open in 90 days, we can make that happen. The training itself is kind of a, crawl, walk, run, if you will. So there's self-paced training through our learning management system. There's a series of Zoom calls with various members of our team in the marketing side, the analytics side. And then, of course, there's the in-person training. The in-person training tends to focus on installations, but there is still time to work on budgeting, setting up their chart of accounts, making sure all their IT systems are up and running properly. So they're getting the full kind of suite of support that we provide to our owners.
Yeah, and that's interesting with an asset-light model where there's no real estate involved. You can probably get to market pretty quickly, like within 90 days of signing a franchise agreement. Is that relatively accurate?
Easily, yes. If an owner wants to move at that pace, because sometimes they got to balance what else they have going on in their personal and professional lives. But we are set up to get owners open in 90 days. We did that most with our 3 newest owners. They were all open between 90 and 100 days.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about some of the benefits that franchise owners enjoy by being part of Buzz family of brands. Like you mentioned shared services before. What kind of things would you get to enjoy as an owner because you're part of the family?
For sure. So we'll start with the shared services, then I'll talk a little bit about the brand team. But when I think shared services for a Buzz owner, an owner in the Buzz family of brands, they're getting the training and onboarding that I talked about, which comes from, again, a long tenured employee. She's almost at 10 years herself, be at 10 years next quarter. And she's, works with a couple of other employees to get owners through that training and onboarding. So that would be a shared service. We have a very robust marketing team. So there's a dedicated marketing director within Wonderly, and then she has access to a 5-person digital marketing team, a 3-person creative design team, which includes a videographer, and then a direct mail support team that does some of the targeted direct mail that we do for our owners. And then the third kind of pillar in our shared services model is our analytics team. So under Mike Hull, our CFO, there's a dedicated, 2-person, if you will, analytic team. They work with a business intelligence software called Tableau, and we are pumping reports to franchisees both via email, and then they have their own viewer licenses. So they're able to see how they're performing against last year, against their budget, against benchmarks. We're not sharing owner data with other owners, but we're giving them a sense of how they're doing within their cohort or within the overall system. Are they best in class? They can quickly benchmark themselves, and so engaged and savvy owners who want to see the data, like, hey, you have 17 proposals that haven't converted yet. When's the last time you tapped those customers or potential customers? Hey, you missed 17 calls last week. I mean, what's going on with your CSR? So we have the ability to really help them drive their business if they want to take advantage of it.
Yeah,
and that's really the benefit. Yeah, sorry.
No, it just sounds like the done for you marketing, I know, is a big question. It's like, all right, we as a franchise owner are comfortable putting the capital forward so that we can connect with consumers, but how are you going to help me kind of allocate those funds and kind of do it for me and with me? And it sounds like you have a team that, takes that data and then applies it to the area and can kind of drive insights as to the best place to kind of drive client acquisition.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And it's down sometimes at the zip code level. We can see responses either in the digital space or in the direct mail space. Of course, for anybody listening, I don't want to or underplay the importance of also doing local marketing. And owners need to understand that you need to be active in your community. You need to be engaged. You need to seek partnerships, sponsorships, even something as basic as yard signs or door hangers. All that is going to amplify what we're going to do for you on the corporate level.
Yeah, definitely. That's an important consideration. It's like, you have to get out there and be the mayor of the town. You have to build those relationships, especially, as you mentioned, municipal accounts, commercial accounts. They don't just come to you because you place an ad. They come because you're active and you're networked and you're communicating. And all of a sudden, those things will come 6 months in, a year in. So it's like, focus on the singles and doubles, that the digital marketing, grassroots marketing, direct marketing, and then maybe you'll get those home runs and grand slams when those relationships come to fruition, because you have to, really work it. It doesn't just happen overnight. You can't just pay for that. It's something that's earned. So let's talk a little bit about the supply chain you mentioned. I mean, especially in the holiday lighting side of things, if you're going to get in this business, you want to make sure that your price point's correct so that you can make a margin. Can you tell us a little bit about how you help the owners with your supply chain as it relates to the seasonal aspect of the business?
Certainly. Within the holiday light business, we do a couple things. We source some products direct from China, so we are cutting out the distributor, if you will, and able to drive down the price. So even though, we're still an emerging brand, we're still relatively new, relatively small in the big scheme of things, we're getting pricing that most people our scale would never be able to get. And that was, again, through some of the people we partnered with early on. They made the right introductions, and we've leveraged that. We also purchased through some of the more established wholesalers in the industry, who are also purchasing from China. They're obviously, getting their cut, if you will. But we're at a scale now where we're getting good kind of, specialty or discounted pricing through a corporate discount program. So pretty much whether it's bulbs, wiring, mini lights, wreaths, greenery, across the board, if we're not sourcing it direct from China, you're still getting it as an owner at a much better price than you can get just through purchasing online.
Okay, appreciate that. And you
Yeah.
mentioned the app. So is the app kind of consumer facing and franchise owner technician facing? So there's benefits to kind of both sides?
The app is definitely a great sales and communication tool for both the franchise owner or their designated salesperson and the consumer or client on the other side. It really streamlines the process, first of all. So we don't need to have a face-to-face when it comes to holiday light sales. We can do it all through the iPad. Sometimes we can do it through Google Maps if we have the right imagery.
Okay.
But by and large, if you and I are having a discussion about you're interested in putting lights up in your home, I'm going to say, hey, Mike, listen, I'll be out there this afternoon, or my guy will be out there. You don't need to be there early this evening. I'll send you a PDF with some imagery of what your house would look like. I'll give you a couple of options. And then the app, it's a proprietary app that we've had designed over the last couple of years. You take a picture of the home, you can insert to scale imagery of what the lights would look like. You can select red lights or white lights. You can place the greenery. It's all very realistic, if you will. And then you can darken the image and give them a view of what it looks like or what it will look like. And then you can share that along with the proposal, and the proposal gives you the quote. And, typically we'll do a better best option where you have the opportunity to say, look, this is the baseline. If you want to add some more greenery, or maybe if you want to do the ridge line instead of just the gutter line, this would be the best or the premium look for you.
Man, that is so cool. Like, I bet it's kind of mind blowing for people that haven't seen that technology before. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, this is what my house can look like. And yeah, let's go. It's really nice. I know the visual component is a big part of the sales. That's what the neighbors are going to see. And that's what you see when you come home from work and all that. So that's great. So, Brian, in terms of who you're looking for, what's an ideal franchise owner look like for you? When you look at kind of the subset of owners that are in this concept, Wonderly Lights, who's drawn to this opportunity? Who's kind of the current makeup of people that are doing well in the system?
For sure. I mean, I'm sure you've heard it. We like to say we want owners who are PhDs, passionate, hungry, and driven. That's an easy catch-all phrase. Look, the reality is, we touched on it earlier. We want somebody who wants to be engaged in the community. Unlike some of our other services, I say this somewhat tongue in cheek, but this is really a service and an industry where you're bringing a lot of joy and happiness to people if you're doing it right. And so the more you are comfortable and want to engage in the community at the homeowner level, at the business owner level, at a BNI event, Chamber of Commerce, even with the town or city that you live in, if you want to pursue municipal opportunities, an owner who wants to be out there and talking up how much fun this business is and how much joy it brings to a homeowner when they see their house lit up for the first time. And that's true whether it's the holidays or whether it's a landscape architectural job, which is going to increase the value of their home, increase the beauty of their home, what it looks like from the street, maybe even increase or improve their outdoor living space, which is always a big opportunity. So, somebody who wants to be out there, wants to be engaged and selling in the community is important. I think it does help when the owner is willing or has enough technical or mechanical, whatever you want to call it, ability to be able to help with the good installs. Certainly the owner doesn't want to be doing all the installs, but like I said, and really this is true of any business, but especially true with the Wonderly Lights business. You don't want to be held hostage to a one employee who is kind of the linchpin of your business model.
Right.
If you're not comfortable going out there, you don't necessarily have to be comfortable getting on a roof. You need somebody who can get on a roof, but you do need to be comfortable understanding, like, these are how the connections go. These are how we splice the wires in. It's not super technical. It's low voltage. You don't need to be licensed, other than a couple exceptions. But you do have to have some basic skills, I think, to be best in class.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice. So thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely.
And then we touched a little bit on kind of residential and commercial. You have like these four buckets. You have the residential and the commercial, then you have seasonal and non-seasonal. I know every market's different. Every owner can attack it in a different way, but generally speaking, is there a certain split that you see between what an owner will achieve in terms of revenues? Not specific numbers, but is it a 50-50 split between residential and commercial? Is it 80-20? And then how much is, seasonal lights versus, your traditional landscaping lights?
Yeah, for sure. So, I think it's a little early for us to have enough insight to get a real clear breakdown on what the seasonal, non-seasonal will be. I've been actually very pleased with the demand on the landscape side here, even as we get into the fourth quarter. We had enough insight or connections within the industry that some of our vendor partners had told us, like, you're going to be surprised at the amount of people who, once daylight savings hit, really want to get some landscape lighting. So that's been a real kind of positive point, in addition to the growth we're seeing on the holiday side. As far as the residential commercial, I typically encourage new owners to start residential to build their confidence before they really start to pitch the commercial. But even the three new owners I mentioned earlier, they're all doing quotes right now for commercial jobs and actually have done a couple installs. So I find that very encouraging as well.
Yeah, I mean, you want to understand how to handle a single-family home before you're handling a stadium or a large government building or a school. I mean, you really have to. And the nice thing about having a franchisor, like, of course, if someone has to quote a huge project, you guys can jump in and help with that just to make sure they don't get in too deep. But I can see how the recommended cadence is, hey, let's kind of crawl before we walk, before we run, as it relates to residential, and then kind of get into the commercial side. So if someone's looking to get in, Brian, what is the item 7? What's our range of cost to kind of get started all in?
For sure. So the single territory option is, call it 125 to 140,000. That's for the full-time, full-service model. We're still very open to some of these other entrepreneurs who already have businesses and want to complement and do what we call, they want to start just seasonal. And that would drop your price down to 90 to 100,000. And that's how it's spelled out in our FTD. If you look at that item 7, we provide both a full service model and a seasonal franchise model. But we're certainly encouraging people, especially those who are looking to make the transition out of the corporate side, to go full service, because that's going to give you the full opportunity of all the verticals.
And that previous kind of franchise owner that has a business, are we talking like a home services concept that you bolt this onto, like a landscaping service or something like that?
For sure. So we've had people that do painting businesses, pest control businesses, pool cleaning businesses, gutter businesses. So any of those that they either feel it's either a direct offset to a seasonal business or just complements what they're doing, where they have similar skill sets, similar tools and equipment, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned skill sets. When I think painters, gutters, roofing, I mean, these guys are used to being all around the buildings.
That's right.
That's a skill you're going to need to hang the lights. So Brian, let's talk about item 19. Do you provide any earnings guidance for prospective owners?
So we do have an item 19. I think it provides a nice range of both what a mature business looks like, which are the conversion businesses I mentioned earlier, as well as what each class of new owners have done over the past 3 years.
Excellent. Very cool. This has been great, Brian. I appreciate your time. Anything else you want to add to the mix before we wrap up today?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about Wonderly Lights and Buzz franchise brands, and encourage anybody that has a chance to listen to this podcast, reach out to me if they want to chat some more.
Excellent. And if anyone listening would like to connect with Brian to learn more about becoming a franchise owner with Wonderly Lights or Buzz Franchise Brands, contact me at FranchiseQB or on X at QBFranchiseQB, and I'll get you connected. Thank you, Brian, so much for taking the time to get in the huddle with us today.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. Really appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you for listening to the Franchise QB podcast, where you're at the helm of your future as a franchise owner. If you enjoyed the content, please rate the show and recommend it to anyone that might be interested in franchising. Make sure to visit franchiseqb.com to subscribe to my newsletter and for an actionable playbook to go from walk-on to legend in your new business. Follow us on Twitter at QBFranchiseQB and join us every week for a new episode. See you next time.
Visit franchiseqb.com to take the next step of your journey towards wealth, independence, and franchise ownership. And remember, when working for the man gets old, you must do something bold. Thank you for listening.